What's going on, everybody? It is that time again. The Sooners Illustrated Podcast, episode 185.
185.
On this Monday, June 23rd, 2025. Josh Callaway, James E. Jackson, Tom Green. 68 days from kickoff of the 2025 season. We're into the 60s now, moving ever so quickly. We got some stuff to get into. There you go. We're moving through the summer. We're into the late part of June. Also, recruiting is at the top of the forefront for everyone. It was a big recruiting weekend. We'll kind of react a little bit to some of the headlines coming out of it. We'll look ahead to the season a little bit. Got some basketball news. Nice and tidy little show here on a Monday. I know right now the entire state is probably just floating today off of a Thunder NBA title last night. Vibes are good. It's the summer. We're looking ahead to the season. We're feeling good. Vibes are good for you guys. I take it. Thunder title last night. Tom doesn't probably care, but for James and I, Oklahoma guys.
Yeah, but I'm still floating from my back-to-back Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, who had their parade yesterday.
Oh my gosh, this guy! I mean, I just remember seeing this team a couple of years ago when they were building it, and I was working at my former job and covering it.
Yeah,
kind of during the pandemic and things like that, and how the arenas were affected, and just how much this team grew. Like even a guy like Lou Dort who went undrafted and couldn't shoot. Let's just say what it is. And all of a sudden, it's like one of the best shooters on the team from deep, and just the way they grew. So it was a phenomenal situation to see, like a storybook, closing to all of that happen for them. So great outcome for them.
Really cool for the state. First pro sports, title. Obviously, only pro sports franchise we have at the major level. Obviously, just really cool and a heck of a moment for the state of Oklahoma. Brought OU and OSU fans together, obviously for this run. And now everyone kind of goes back their separate ways for the summer. Looking ahead to the season, like we said, we're 68 days away. I think the Thunder run was a nice distraction for everyone. Football never goes away. Everyone's excited. But now that this run is over, we have the parade tomorrow in the city. There will be the excitement will start to really start to rev up, I think, for football season. Like we said, just 68 days away. SEC media days are just a few weeks away. Like we're getting a little bit deeper into the summer here. We're into the last part of June. And we're getting close to the start of the season. So we're looking ahead. We're starting to break this thing down a little bit, starting to really get the juices flowing. Last summer, around this time, we kind of dove into three of us into some under-the-radar players. Some guys on the team that maybe we haven't talked about enough to this point or just generally aren't getting talked about enough that could make a big impact or maybe just, aren't getting enough, kind of pub for their role on the upcoming, season here coming up this fall. So I want to ask you guys, we did this last year, I want to do it again. Under the radar players, who are some guys for you that you guys think maybe aren't getting talked about enough that could be big time players for Oklahoma in 2025? What do you got?
Yeah, this one almost feels like a cheat for me because we've talked about the defensive line and just like how strong that unit is. But it seems like Jaden Jackson has just kind of been like under-discussed. A lot of it was because he was held out in the spring after that offseason labrum surgery. But you're talking about a freshman All-American defensive tackle who was a day one starter coming in last year. But it just seems like, a lot of the attention's rightfully been on our Mason Thomas. We talked about Grayson Halton a lot and Dominic Williams and just the depth that they have across that line. But I think just because of the nature of his injury and the fact that we didn't really see him in the spring, Jaden Jackson is one of those guys that's flying under the radar a little bit heading into the season. And then on the offensive side, I'm going to go with Isaiah Satania.
You got my guy again.
I'm really, really high on him because he's a guy with SEC experience. I think he can do a lot of interesting things in this offense in that kind of, that retooled wide receiver room that we talked about. They were decimated by injuries last year. They got a lot of new pieces. Still a couple guys out with injuries right now with the two Gibsons. And I think Isaiah Satania is one of those guys that, when they added him, it was like, okay, maybe he can crack the starting rotation and just be like a solid rotational piece for them. But I think he can, has the potential to be not necessarily a star, but a high level performer in this offense.
See, Tom got my guy once again. I was going to go Isaiah because like Oklahoma's, they didn't really get that. They didn't really have that deep threat receiver that they really needed this past season. I mean, obviously, Andrew Anthony was the top receiver for OU before he got hurt. And what he provided for OU down that stretch for, against Texas and all those guys is what they really, really missed this past season. And so I thought that was a good guy for them to pick up and things like that. So really like Isaiah Satanga as a pick there. Defensive side, I guess the same way that Tom spoke about Jaden Jackson, Peyton Bowen as well. I mean, this is a guy that's expecting to have a lot of starts now, in that safety room, in that defensive back room. But he was out with an injury as well, so we didn't get to see a lot of him during the camps and things like that. So really want to see what he can do, because he's a guy that's shown flashes. That 5-star that he's shown flashes throughout his career so far, but now he's going to have that, added on role for what he can provide to this team overall. And even on the special teams, like, have we talked about the kickers that much, in terms of, like, I mean, there's a very important position in terms of how you're going to score points this year. And it's like, you still don't really know who's going to be the guy. Is it Austin Welsh? Is it Grayson Miller? Is it Liam Evans? Which one of those guys is going to take the reins for this position? Because it's such an important role for Oklahoma and what they're going to need. They've been real low on it the last couple of years. They need to find the guy that can do it at a consistent rate. And so really want to see what any of those guys can do. Can any of those guys take the role and move forward for Oklahoma pretty much and be a serviceable piece for them?
I would imagine, Tate Sandell, the UTSA transfer kicker they picked up, probably the favorite there for that job. I mean, we'll see how it shakes out, but no, it's a good point too, and I agree with all those. Satania and Peyton Bowen also, former 5-star, right? So him and PJ Adebawore both are kind of like different reasons. Obviously, PJ's had a hard time. He was kind of banged up last year, and he hasn't fully recognized it. Certainly hasn't played nearly as much as Peyton Bowen has. But for both guys, it's like, you want to see that next step now. You're going into year 3 for both, as 5-star guys. So it's a big year for both, certainly.
I was going to say, and Peyton played banged up last year too, which is why
right.
He wasn't as effective as we saw, as he was at times as a freshman. So for him to, get a full off season to get healthy and get right, I think we are probably going to see the best version that we've seen of Peyton Bowen if he can stay healthy this year.
No, that's completely fair. No doubt about it. A couple more for me. One kind of obvious, maybe it doesn't qualify, but I feel like it kind of does, is Kendall Dolby for me. Like, we kind of forget about this guy a little bit. I'm guilty of it. I'm doing the Essential 11 series again, over Series Illustrated, counting down the 11 most important guys. And I did Kendall Daniels this past weekend. And, Kendall Daniels, we talked about it many times. Seems like a shoo-in for that cheetah, but it's also like, man, they had a good cheetah, and Kendall Dolby, who had that gruesome injury against Tennessee. He's expected to be back, right? And this guy who's playing really good football when he went down, just kind of don't forget about him, And again, I'm including me in that. Like, we're all excited for Kendall Daniels, and we all are pumped up for like Reggie Powers and like some of these Samuel Masigo, like all these other cheetah options they have. Yep. It's like, don't forget that Kendall Dolby was playing pretty good football at that spot before he went down. Just, a little bit undersized compared to those other ones, but just that dog mentality. Brent Venables loves him. He's one that, if he's healthy, likely will play a lot, right? And so he's one that I, again, including myself, guilty of kind of overlooking sometimes. And a little on the offensive side too. I feel like nobody is talking about Zion Kearney from last year. And again, this is a guy who, as a freshman, got thrown into the fire. There was a former 4-star prospect. That receiver room, we talked about it all year, was decimated with injuries. They added a million transfers. I thought Zion Kearney handled himself pretty well, right? I mean, again, the offense was a mess. He didn't have like big numbers. He had the big long touchdown in the bowl game against Navy. Really liked him as a high school player. I thought he handled like the other stuff outside of catching the football, like blocking, like that sort of thing. I thought he, handled himself pretty well, all things considered. That room is loaded with new people, new faces. I just, if you told me Zion Kearney ends up like having a role, it would not shock me at all this fall. And again, I feel like nobody talks about him at all in that receiver room. Because again, there's so much excitement with all the new guys they added, and Deion Burke's back, and Jaden Gibson be healthy, and like he kind of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. Don't forget, this guy was a former 4-star prospect, like a top 125 player in his class. And again, did some nice things as a freshman last year. So he's one for me too that I feel like is definitely flying way under the radar when it comes to, fall camp and what he could possibly be in 2025 for sure. Anything else there? Any other takeaways? James lost his mic. What about you, Tom, though? Anything else you want to add on that?
No, I mean, I think we covered, a handful of guys that, might not have been highlighted as much. I think all of them have a chance to, like you said, have an impact in some way. It's always interesting, like, talking about under the radar guys, because I think for us, we're just like so in the weeds with like this roster where it might not be as obvious to us that someone is under the radar as to like the casual fan who, might not be, thumbing through the roster page by page and, looking at every single guy that's going here, especially at this point in the offseason. But I think we did a good job highlighting a handful of guys there that could be difference makers there.
James, so I think I had a power surge or something like it. See, last night before on the Thunder game, in the fourth quarter, the power went out the entirety of my city. And so we had to move around and go to my mom's to even watch the final of the game. So I don't know what's going on as of late on the power situation, but I digress. Okay, yeah, but like you were saying with the wide receiver room, I think it's just there's so many names and new names to this wide receiver room that some guys can go under the radar. And like you said, was a lot of names. It's like there's just so many, and so just trying to find a guy in that, and we don't really know who's going to be the ones to step up, be a part of that starting group. Who's going to be healthy, who's going to be really ready to go. So like that's where it all lands for me. I think, like Tom said, we did a really good job of highlighting some of these guys that have been missed, and not seeing a lot of, but that's where it is right now for me, I think.
No doubt. And let us know, in the comments, wherever, under the radar guys we're not talking about enough going into 2025. And we'll have the full, position by position breakdown, which is really a great way to cover like the names that I think kind of fall into the crevices as we, navigate the course of the offseason. We'll be starting that again, not too long. Obviously, fall camp is just right around the corner, a little over a month away. Do have some other football before we shift into some other stuff. Obviously, the weekend was a huge recruiting weekend. ChampU BBQ. It's, the recruiting weekend of the summer, really, for Oklahoma, right? They get all these guys into town. It's a big deal. It has been for a long time. We had the full preview with Colin going into it where he laid it all out, really in depth, lots of the names to know. I'm planning to do a show with him later this week, probably Wednesday, to kind of wrap up ChampU BBQ, and we'll probably have a lot of new stuff to talk about by then. Yeah. But for you guys, obviously the big news is Bo Bentley, right? We talked about that. Colin and I had an instant reaction show on Friday, if you missed that, where we kind of just gave some quick, 20 minutes of kind of reaction to all of it with Bo and obviously Jaden O'Neal's decommitment. So they got Bo Bentley in the boat in 26. They also had a kicker over the weekend as well, Trace Rudd, who's a 5-star from Cole's Kicking Academy. They added him into the mix as well over the weekend. He was in town for ChampU BBQ, and the expectations there will be a lot more. Where that came from, obviously, with Bo in town, there is a lot of momentum here right now, guys. Obviously, the big one is getting Bo Bentley in the boat. Your quarterback. It's so hard to kind of recruit other guys where they don't know who their quarterback's going to be. Like, that's why the QB usually is one of the first ones on the board. It was, with Jaden, but they end up making the switch here with Ben Arbuckle to Bo Bentley. Momentum seems to be very, very high. The expectation that there will be some new names jumping in very, very soon. Feels like things are going really well, though, on this front. Anything you guys wanted to touch on there? Obviously, Bo Bentley is the big one, but feels like that Oklahoma is just on the cusp here of a big-time run on the 26 class right now, coming out of ChampU BBQ.
Yeah, and the timing of it is what really matters here. Obviously, there was that run on 2026 quarterbacks last summer where it just seemed like all the top guys basically came off the board within like a few weeks of each other. And obviously Oklahoma at the time had Jaden O'Neal, had him on board. You have the coaching changes and all that, and Ben Arbuckle, obviously identified Bo Bentley as the guy that he thought would best fit his system. It's real difficult when you have a guy committed and you're trying to thread that needle of landing the guy that you think might be a better fit while not, ending up with nobody. Obviously, Jaden O'Neal decommitted. Didn't take long for Bo Bentley to hop on board, commit, coming off that Elite 11 appearance, and then to get him on campus to join in for the ChampU BBQ and help recruit some of those guys. They obviously had a lot of big targets, big wide receiver targets that they're trying to get all on campus, and to have your new quarterback there just kind of infuse a little bit more excitement and be that guy to help recruit and bring this class together. I think the timing element of it all is probably the biggest part for Oklahoma, aside from the fact that they got their quarterback, they got their guy.
Yeah, I mean, getting the quarterback is, one of the most important pieces because he can recruit so many other guys. I mean, you saw it right after Bo Bentley, committed. He sent out a tweet to some of the guys he was going after. Let's play catch and Norman. Pretty much situation like that, which is pretty cool. You see that often, and it's good, like you said, that Ben Arbuckle was able to get the guy that he wanted for his system. I mean, it's nothing personal, I don't think, between the guys. It's like he just fits the system better for me. Kevin Sperry was for Jeff Lebby. I mean, and it was, Seth Luttrell was the one really bringing in Jaden O'Neal, which is kind of what Jaden O'Neal said in his release for why he decommitted from Oklahoma when he put it out on social media as well. It was like Seth Luttrell was the guy that was recruiting me here. So all of that plays a factor into it. And now I guess Kevin Sperry and Jaden O'Neal will be at Florida State. So that's an odd situation for them, but pretty good that they both land where they feel like they're wanted and fit their system the best. So overall good weekend, I think, for each of the guys, pretty much, and OU for what they were able to do is in Ben Arbuckle getting the quarterback that he wanted for his system. So a lot to expect of a lot more guys coming along now that Oklahoma has the quarterback that they really want. There's going to be some names committing here pretty soon.
No doubt. I've given, our guy Colin Kennedy a lot of credit throughout this entire cycle, this entire summer. He's been just all over it, and I'm going to do it again. I mean, he was all over all the Bentley O'Neal stuff. He really kind of nailed how the whole thing was going to go down. And he mentioned before ChampU BBQ last week on the show that he felt like there was a very, very real good chance that Oklahoma goes on a run. And look, they haven't done it yet, right? I mean, they got Bo on Friday. They added, Trace Rudd, the kicker, like I said. But there is a belief, even this show will go out around 3:00 today. Even by then, that the ice, the avalanche could have begun, and so Oklahoma, it was a great weekend for ChampU BBQ. It always is. It was a very fruitful weekend, but to get Bo Bentley on Friday, and he was here, right? They got him into town for it. Mm-hmm. They're set up to go on a bit of a run here. And there's some big, decisions coming up. We talked about Deacon Schmitz coming up later this week. There's some in the early part of July, commitment dates that have been set that Oklahoma feels pretty good about. So there's a lot to be excited about, a lot of big name targets. And again, Wednesday, we'll probably do the show with Colin. We'll get into a lot of it then. He'll obviously be the guy to ask for the specifics, but there's a lot to be excited about right now for Oklahoma in 2026. This class, which again, fans have been a little uneasy about. It's been small. It's been hanging around the 30s in the rankings. That's going to change most likely very, very soon. So a lot to be excited about. Make sure to head on over to Sooners Illustrated, subscribe right now with our June deal. Great time to do it because there's a lot coming right now. And what's going to be a busy summer on the recruiting side already has been, and more to come. Mm-hmm. All right, guys, let's do a little bit of hoops in the middle of June here before we move on. We got SEC opponents last week for men's and women's basketball. Let's start with the men. Tom, kind of surveying here. I was curious, any takeaways you had. Obviously, if you didn't see it, I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but home and road, Texas, Texas A&M, and Missouri. Those are the three that Oklahoma will play both in Norman as well as on the road. We'll have a little 2-game series with, if you will, over the course of the season. Some of the other things that jump out, they go to Rupp Arena for the first time. That'll be cool. Going to Lexington, home games, you get Alabama and Auburn, Arkansas as well. Off to John Calipari will make his way to the Lloyd Noble Center this winter. Tom, anything that jumps out to you from men's hoops, SEC opponents getting set last week?
Yeah, a few things. I mean, you touched on it. Mizzou, Texas, Texas A&M, the 3 home and homes, just like it was last year. All 9 teams that visit the Lloyd Noble Center this year in SEC play made the SEC tournament or the NCAA tournament last year. And again, obviously, 14 of the 16 teams in the SEC made the tournament last year. So pretty high chance that you were going to get most of those guys or most of your home slate as NCAA tournament teams. You mentioned Auburn coming in. They were coming off Final Four run. Florida, the reigning national champion, also coming to Norman this year. And then at Kentucky, where you're going to face Otego again after those 2 heartbreakers against them last year, but getting to go to Rupp, cool experience, cool arena. Obviously the history there, and then a road game at Vandy where you're going to see Duke Miles. He landed at 3 different schools.
Forgot he ended up there after he transferred like 4 times.
Yeah, so I think those are kind of the big takeaways. Just kind of a loaded home slate. I mean, look, that the SEC is so deep. There's a discussion on board like what's harder, an SEC football schedule or an SEC basketball schedule. And I think right now it's the basketball schedule when you look at the league top to bottom. And that's saying something, considering Oklahoma football has the toughest schedule in the country coming up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a tough slate, and obviously when you factor in some of those non-conference games that they're playing either on the road or at neutral site games, it's gonna be for a big season in which they're gonna get battle tested throughout.
For sure. No, it's an exciting slate. Like you said, the SEC is just loaded, and it's fun, especially like you mentioned in the non-conference. They really don't have any of their big games at home, right? So the fact you get some of these marquee matchups in the Lloyd Noble Center will be fun. We'll have to see if maybe Tom and I can get out to Rupp or something. I'd be tempted to try and make it happen. That's gonna be really cool. I'll say that it's the kind of exchange when you leave the Big 12, you lose Fog Allen, but you gained Rupp, right? As far as like a really cool road trip to a historic venue. So that'll be a lot of fun. And we'll see what it looks like over the course of the year. Glad they were able to keep the home and road with Texas. You add in A&M, which is fun, and Missouri, of course, which is kind of becoming more and more of a rivalry with each passing, year, I'm guessing, here as we move deeper into the SEC. But fun slate for sure. As for the women, James, weird, because I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying, okay, where are the home and roads? Texas A&M, that's it. That's the list for teams that they play home and road. They do not host Texas, which is just appalling to me. That I don't know how the SEC allowed that to happen. They should absolutely play a home and road with Texas. That's nuts to me. Any other takeaways for you, though? That was by far the biggest one for me, as how is Texas not coming to Lloyd Noble Center? But anything that jumps out to you from the women's slate in SEC play?
Yeah, it seems like they just pick one every year, and it seems like so Texas A&M is this year for Oklahoma to,
which they play less games, right? They play 2 less conference games than the men do, I think.
Yeah. So I think that's part of the reason there. But like you said, that's a rivalry. You want that to be home and away. So I mean, but you get some really really good games again. South Carolina, Texas, LSU, Tennessee, all those teams that Oklahoma had to really fight nail and tooth to the end until that final stretch where they really went on a run. You're going to see those teams again. And a lot of them back in Lloyd Noble Center, which is going to be a pretty fun situation given the talent that Oklahoma is bringing back and that they're bringing in for this upcoming season. It's going to be a really fun year for Oklahoma women's basketball, I think. And you look at ESPN's way too early rankings, and there's 7 of those teams that they're on the SEC market. I mean, they're on the SEC schedule that they're going to face. And so that's a lot of high caliber games that this team is going to get to play in. And a lot of fans are going to really have some fun with it, because I think Oklahoma, even as good as they were last year, they just have some really retooled situations now to where they're really going to be a force to be reckoned with. So I think it's going to be really fun for Oklahoma fans to watch that and see what's going to happen with them overall.
Also, shout out Reagan Beers, right? And Jenny Baranchek doing some Team USA stuff. Really cool.
Sahara Williams as well is doing she's doing a 3-on-3 situation.
That's right, 3-on-3. I was gonna say, so that's really cool. Congratulations to them. It's gonna be a fun team, but I don't know. That's egregious to not have. I mean, it should be put in stone. If you're only gonna have one that you go home and home with, it should be Texas, right? I mean, am I crazy? That seems like an obvious. I don't know. Whatever. That'll be weird, though.
And I got to
see. Had a season where Texas didn't come to the Noble Center, like probably been decades.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question.
Look it up.
Yeah, I should look that up. Yeah, that's a pretty good question. Gonna answer that one. And I got to see some of the newer players, Aaliyah Chavez and Brooklyn Stewart. They were all out at the Juneteenth celebration this past weekend. Got to see some of the teams, some of the men's team as well. I don't know who said it, but one of the men's players was like Pacers in 7 on the microphone. And he wasn't happy about that. It's like, I'm trying to sell your tickets, man. Act right. So it was a pretty cool situation for them, a really good celebration. But got to see some of the players and in their height and what they can do. So it's pretty good.
No doubt. It's going to be a fun year in hoops, both men and women. Also, still got a long way to go. Football is the priority, but there's reason to be excited about both those programs. And kind of same thing, it's a ways off. It's not, November is when they get going, but it always sneaks up because you get so into football mode and all of a sudden it's like, holy crap, hoops is about to start, so kind of fun to look ahead a little bit there as well. Sticking with hoops, going back to the men, NBA draft is this week. which is nuts. The finals just ended yesterday. The draft starts on Wednesday.
Yeah.
The NBA offseason moves really, really quick. Also, Jeremiah Fears expected to be a lottery pick. Going to be fun to see where he winds up. On the downside, Jalon Moore, who certainly we expected to be probably a second-round pick, maybe. I mean, we'll see how it all was going to shake out or will shake out now. Injured in a pre-draft workout, Tom. This sucks. Just no other way to put it. Jalon, who obviously is a guy that we really enjoyed covering the last 2 years, a really fun player, a phenomenal athlete. What was the actual injury? Was it Achilles?
Yeah, torn Achilles.
Brutal. I mean, just absolutely brutal. That's obviously a very long recovery time. Hopefully he can still latch on to a team, but it's going to take a long time to get back. You can start there, Tom, if you'd like, or do a combination thereof with obviously the draft coming up. But, the excitement is obviously really high for Fears, and to see where he winds up this week. Again, expect to be a lottery pick, maybe top 10. But the Jalon Moore news really just stunk. I mean, that was just one of those things like just a bummer, just bummer news to see, or obviously earlier this week or over the weekend.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. I mean, I think ESPN had him as like the 63rd prospect in their rankings. So it was like a fringe, draftable guy in the second round there. But I felt like he was going to be a guy that was going to get a shot somewhere. We'll see, what kind of opportunity he gets now, whether a team still wants to, sign him to some sort of, G League deal or something, let him recover and, give him an opportunity, a year down the road or whatever it may be. But it just sucks for him. I mean, the details of it, apparently it happened during a pretty rigorous workout with the San Antonio Spurs, and it was like his 13th out of 16 pre-draft workouts.
Yeah.
And those workouts are grueling. You're going against a lot of guys. And it's a lot to put on your body. And like we're seeing it more and more, just, how intensive, not just, this pre-draft process is, but you look at the NBA today, and I think I saw a stat last night after Tyrese Halliburton went down with his injury. That's eight NBA players this year, I think, tore their Achilles.
Yeah.
And you had Jalon Moore in a pre-draft workout, and you go back to the preseason when Thanasis Antetokounmpo tore his Achilles too. So that's 10 in the last calendar year. When I think the previous high in a season, I think I saw was like 5 or 6 total. So it sucks for Jalon. Obviously, it was a pleasure to cover the last 2 years. As much as cool as it was to see him kind of blossom on the court, it was really cool to see him just kind of grow into a leader. He's a guy that led in both his actions and backed it up with his words. He was always really thoughtful with his time and his answers in dealing with the media, whether it was at the podium or in the SEC tournament, NCAA tournament when we would talk to him in the locker room. Just really thoughtful kid, and hoping for the best for him moving forward. But then on the good side, Jeremiah Fears, I mean, like, it seems like he's a lock to be a top 10 pick. Pretty much every mock has him going 6th, 7th, or 8th. Whether that's to Brooklyn, Washington, or I forgot who. New Orleans. Yeah, so one of those 3 teams, it seems like most likely to land him. He's going to be the highest drafted Oklahoma player since Trae Young, first one and done player for Oklahoma since Trae Young. Just really cool for him to see what he was able to do. And again, I think he's the second youngest player in this draft.
Right.
So for him to come in and do what he did in a season in Oklahoma where he was, punching up in size and experience, and to, parlay that into helping lead the program back to the NCAA tournament, and then to be in position to be a top 10 pick. That's just really cool for him. So we'll find out where he lands in just a couple days.
You got a preference there for a spot you think would be best? I like him in Brooklyn. That seems like a good fit.
Yeah, I mean, I think out of those 3 options, I think Brooklyn is probably the best situation. Certainly Washington is just
not Washington.
Yeah,
no.
Washington is just like perpetually bad right now. New Orleans, it seems like there might be some uncertainty with everything that's gone on this offseason with Zion. So I think the best situation for him out of those would be Brooklyn, but we'll see. Maybe a team trades up and really likes him and tries to get in there.
No doubt.
Yeah.
It's got to be something. It's something weird about these Achilles injuries, all of a sudden happening so much, because I feel like the first time it got on my radar was like DeMarcus Cousins and then Kevin Durant, like 2018, 2019.
Kobe Bryant.
It's just been
or is.
Oh, well, that's true. Yeah, Kobe Bryant didn't tell you. Yeah, that's
older,
true. Yeah, he was an older guy, but it's just like it's happening to even younger guys and some guys that don't even like play through explosiveness so much. Like you see, like Damian Lillard having his as well. I mean, he's an older guy, but it's like that's not something he's really doing. So I don't know. That's weird that it's happening. Maybe it's the way that these guys play basketball now, but it's so spaced out that it's affecting something and the way they do things. I don't know, because it used to be like ACL tears was like something that happened a lot. It was like the normal thing. Now it's Achilles tendons, which is like it's weird. I think it's weird overall. Maybe something with the shoes needs to change. I don't know. The way they're playing now, maybe it needs to change. I don't know.
I was gonna say I'm not a doctor, but I think one of the things, obviously, the game seems more intense. Like these guys are more athletic than ever, and also just the calendar. Like there's a lot less off time for these guys. Even though while the advancements in their recovery and how they treat their bodies has grown exponentially in recent years, that's still a lot of pressure and a lot of taxation on your body, on your muscles, on those tendons almost all year long, where these guys are barely getting any break nowadays. Especially NBA guys, you're going through this off season and into the playoffs where it's October through late June, and then every other year it seems like you have, whether it's FIBA or the Olympics, you got a lot of guys going through that. And then just the training required to be able to continue to play at a high level. I think it's a lot to put on your body, and the length of the NBA season probably doesn't help either.
Yeah, no, I mean, to your point, I mean, in Jalon's case, it seems like just overuse. I mean, he did a bunch of workouts in a short time span, and you put yourself at risk of that. That's not his fault, that's the nature of the draft process. Because I've seen a lot of NBA draft experts who know way better than me that basically said, like, this whole process needs to be reevaluated after Jalon's injury. Like, these guys shouldn't have to do this, zigzagging around different places, doing intense workouts and hopping back on a plane or whatever. So that sucks for Jalon again. Excited for Fears. Gonna be really cool. Like I said, I like the Brooklyn fit. I think both from like a personality standpoint too. Like I feel like he would kind of embrace that. I like that fit for him. If that's the way it goes, we'll be watching on Wednesday night. And for Jalon, obviously guys have done it before. You got it. I mean, Austin Reeves obviously went undrafted, and you look where he's doing now, starting for the Lakers, right? I mean, here in Oklahoma City, Lou Dort was undrafted. Like, it can be done.
Caruso,
the wrinkle of fact he's going to have a year injury recovery on top of that certainly makes it real tough. But if anyone could do it, it'd be him. I mean, the way he works, we know that he's a grinder and the right personality to handle it, I think. And so we'll be pulling for him, right? We'll be rooting for him. Hopefully he will get a shot somewhere. I would imagine he would, but it'll take be a long road back for him, unfortunately. But again, we'll be pulling for him wherever he lands this week, whether that's undrafted or late in the second round or whatever it may be. I think that's it. No, obviously not a ton to get into. Short and tidy show here. We'll do again Wednesday with Colin is the plan there. We're gonna have a lot to talk about on the recruiting side coming out of ChampU BBQ, and likely again more movement coming in the next couple of days. I keep checking my phone. Every time I get a notification, I'm like, is that a commit? Trying to make sure we get it in if we can. But we'll catch up with him on Wednesday, so I don't want to miss that show. A lot to get into. We'll be back with these guys next Monday, continuing to sift our way through the off season, moving through as we get close to media days and obviously fall camp. All this stuff's just kind of right around the corner. We're getting closer here as we move into the late part of June. But gentlemen, appreciate you guys as always. Back with Colin on Wednesday. Back with these guys next Monday. For Tom Green, James D. Jackson, I'm Josh Callaway signing off for now. We'll see you next time right back here as always on Sooners Illustrated.
See you.